Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Canadian Ruck. This is Jamie Gray. This pod, we're welcoming, very fortunate, Canadian Ruck welcomes Evan Olmstead. Evan was born in British Columbia, moved to Australia around the age of 3, pretty young. So far, he's got over 30 appearances for Canada, I think 33. Debuted versus Samoa back in July of 2015. He's a member of Rugby Canada at World Cups in 2015, 2019. Played pro for Newcastle Falcons in the Premiership. Played for Auckland in the Mitre 10 down in New Zealand, which is pretty cool. And he's now currently playing for Beatrice in the Pro D2. So Evan will be coming up very soon. Just want to welcome first-time listeners. Just to give you a heads up, this is not my normal pod setup. Usually I have an office at home, but I am in work today. I'm a teacher. And this afternoon, it's a Friday afternoon, it's Winter Carnival. And my session, I had a movie set up, Remember the Titans, and nobody came. I guess the kids don't remember the Titans, so I've got the afternoon off. So I've been working on pod, doing some marketing, trying to be creative. But I really want to welcome first-time listeners. You know, there's a lot of people that enjoy these podcasts and getting to hear these great rugby stories from our great rugby athletes and coaches. And that's what this pod is about. This pod is about Canadian rugby in particular. We have a little bit of international flavor on occasion, but the purpose here, it's a platform for Canadian rugby personalities, players, you know, past, present, future, coaches, admin. It's a chance for them to share their story to help spread the good rugby word, the good Canadian rugby word in particular. It really gives a voice for some of Canada's finest rugby players or athletes and coaching minds and more. We always talk a little rugby news, what's going on in the world. And there's always not always, but oftentimes there's a gray area, which is usually some type of poll about something that's happened over the past week or two that we kind of bring light to as well. So hopefully you'll come back for more. So how do you find more? How do you see more? How do you hear more? Well, I'm glad you asked. And that is through social media. We're on Twitter at Canadian Ruck. We're on Instagram, _Canadian_Ruck. We're on Facebook at The Canadian Ruck. And if you want to reach out through email, it's thecanadianruck@gmail.com. But some things that you need to do, if you haven't already, when you're watching and listening, make sure you're following, subscribing, and then sharing as well. We're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and our website, which has all our past content, upcoming guests, etc. It's thecanadianruck.weebly.com. So make sure you check all that out. Listen, follow, subscribe, share. Those are the important things. This week, we got a show going out to Adam Roberts. So on Wednesday, March 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Pacific, Adam's hosting a free webinar to promote collegiate rugby in Canada. This is open to any high school student and coaches interested in continuing their rugby careers through university. But it's open to a lot of people just to come and enjoy and listen and take part in these sessions. Currently, there's over 15 universities taking part in this great initiative. If you're on YouTube, you'll see the poster. I've also retweeted it out a few times. If you want to register, email Adam, and his email is roberts_a@surreyschools.ca. Thanks for the heads up on this, Michael Smith. Really appreciate you reaching out to me. Adam Roberts, keep up the great rugby work. And as Michael says, Robo is always putting in the extra. So Adam, keep it up. Great job, bud. In rugby news, take a look at the international front first. Six Nations is off this week, as you all know, which is good for France. If you might not have heard, their head coach, Fabien Galthy, has tested positive for COVID. All the players were in isolation, and they're actually looking to bring some new bodies for next week's clash v Scotland. All players have been tested this past week, and they all came back clear as of today, and that's a great sign. So they've returned home to their families where they are currently in isolation, making sure that they get looked after. On another rugby news, on a different kind of front, this one I found interesting. Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, steps down from the RFU and Rugby Football League patron roles. So this is due to the fact that Prince Harry and Meghan confirmed that they will not be returning as working members of the royal family. You know, it's old news for sure, but they've just kind of committed that, we are not going to be working with the RFU anymore. And the RFU put out a statement stating, "We would like to thank Prince Harry for his time and commitment to the Rugby Football Union, both in his position as patron and vice patron. RFU has greatly valued his contribution to promoting and supporting the game. We look forward to welcoming the Duke and Duchess of Sussex back to Twickenham at some point in the future. So, Prince Harry, I know you're a big time listener of the pod. Enjoy your downtime and enjoy just being able to be a fan of the game. Sticking the international front, Super Rugby Australia, Super Rugby AU, round 1 kicked off. Reds hammered Waratahs 41-7, not even close. You look at the stats page, it looks like the Reds dominated pretty much everywhere from carried the ball more, they had more gain line meters, and just pretty much laid an overall thumping on the Taz. And then the Brumbies beat up on Western Forest, closer game, 27-11. But Brumbies ran in 3 tries to 1 for the Western Force in that opener. So this seems like it's a little bit better, tighter, closely matched game. Next week, the Rebels are playing the Reds, and the Brumbies will be facing off against the Waratahs. Super Rugby, New Zealand, Aotearoa is kicking off next weekend. Up first, it'll be the Highlanders and the Crusaders. Crusaders have dominated the Highlanders as of late, winning 9 of the past 10. But it's also hard to count out a team when they've got my boy Aaron Smith dishing the ball, so that should be a good match. The next match will be the Hurricanes and the Blues. These 2 teams have been a little more evenly matched as of late, with the Blues winning 2 of the past 3. Some local news, really like this. This one's great. Vancouver Island High School unveils Rugby Academy. So starting in the fall of 2021, Robin McDowell of McDowell Rugby and the Rugby Hive podcast has established the McDowell Rugby Academy in BC. This is going to be open to students in grade 10, 11, and 12. And the academy will have 30 dedicated spots for athletes from the Coquitlam Valley, 15 for athletes across Canada, and another 15 for international students. So far, they've already had interest from athletes in Japan, Barbados, and the US. The BC School Board has fully endorsed this endeavor, which is great. Too bad school boards across the Maritimes wouldn't take part in something like this. Maybe they would, but it hasn't happened. McDowell stated, the McDowell rugby team strongly identifies with the idea of developing an athlete to reach potential that would otherwise be untapped. Their main goal for our aspiring athletes is to dream big and believe in themselves, which will ultimately help them succeed in rugby and in life. So if you're interested, reach out to Robin at mcdowellrugby.ca. Congrats, Robin. Keep up the great work, buddy. Saying all that, it is still winter here in the Maritimes and across Canada. But if you're looking to, get your golf clubs ready, Break Par Golf Sales and Service is willing to help you out. They're your authorized Golf Pride and Wilson Golf dealer in Southern New Brunswick. Get your clubs re-gripped now and be ready for the 2021 season. The new Wilson D9 driver is coming soon, so pre-order yours now. Check them out on Facebook at Break Par Golf Sales and Service, or on their website, breakpargolfsales.weebly.com. Make sure you ask for Chris. He is the owner and operator of this business. Remember, Break Par Golf is here to help you break par, not your wallet. Coming up now, Evan Olmstead. All right, so let's jump right in. Canadian Ruck's very fortunate. We got Evan Olmstead joining us. He's over in France. I didn't get a chance to see his game on the weekend. Today's the 24th. They played, was it US Montauban last night?
Yeah.
The tagline, it looks like a 31-3 win. How you feeling today?
I'm very sore. I banged up my ankle a little bit, which is no good. So we'll be off to the doctors in the morning to see if I'm just being a bit of a drama queen or if it's a bit more serious. But no, it's good. It was a typical Southwest France winter game. It had been raining for about 4 days before, and our pitch is waterlogged at the best of times. So it was an ugly game. There was some good banter going on in the middle while we're just doing shuttle runs, chasing kicks. But in the miserable weather, sort of that's what you got to do to win. And so we put together a pretty good game. Played our game plan, which was basically to keep them pinned and wait for them to make mistakes. And then once they make mistakes, then we'll actually play some rugby and try and score some tries. So got the bonus point win, which is awesome. Always good.
And I like your priorities too. Instead of going to the doctor today, you stuck around and you're on the pod call with me, right? So
yeah, well, I did. This is my first sort of decent injury that I've had I've been in France, and I said to them, I was like, hey, well, what's wrong with going to the hospital tomorrow? And they're like, nah, it's a Sunday. And if you've been to France, you'll know that Sunday, there's not a whole lot that happens on a Sunday. So they said the only, you can wait around in the emergency room for your scans, but you're going to be there all day, or, we'll book you in first thing Monday morning. It's not going to change the result, So it's like, fair enough.
Fair enough.
So
it's kind of like Canadian healthcare system, right? So
a little bit, yeah. There is like sort of private section. I don't exactly know how it works. French administration is something I don't think even the French fully understand themselves. So it's who knows? We'll figure it out as we go along.
But you're enjoying it there, eh? It's your first year, right? With I can't Biarritz. How do you say that?
Yeah, Biarritz. I don't know. It depends. There's all different accents. But no, it's good. It was my second season with them. I came straight after the World Cup as a medical joker, which basically just means someone was out for the season, so they can use the insurance money to hire someone else. So they did that, brought me in. I re-signed quite quickly, so it was good to have a bit of certainty after I'd been sort of changing around and moving around a little bit in the last few years, and obviously Biarritz it's an awesome spot, so it couldn't really be any happier with where I've landed.
That's awesome. So let's jump into some questions here. Like probably talk a little bit more about your pro background in a bit, but my understanding, you were born in BC, but you left around the age of 3 and you moved to Australia. So how did you get involved coming back to BC? I think you played U20 Canada, stuff like that. How did that all transpire for you?
Yeah, so I'd been sort of plugging away. I was in the system in Australia, sort of on the fringe of the system here. I was never the biggest guy growing up. I was tall, but I was skinny. And we're playing against monsters, a lot of Pacific Island boys over here. So they were well in excess of 110 kilos at 16 years old. So 85 kilo me was really struggling. But no, I was in the mixer, and eventually I got cut at the last step for the Australian under-20s. And so my godfather, Mark Slay, had a bit to do with BC Rugby and had a few sort of just email addresses. So I ended up getting Mike Shelley's email address. I sent him an email, just said who I am, that I'm Canadian, that I'm interested if it's a possibility to come play Canada under-20s. So he responded. I sent him some game tapes and tried out for the team, made the team, and that was my introduction to rugby in Canada. So yeah, my dad was all around the Capellanos, so I think people knew of the Olmstead name, but obviously I'd been away for a long time, so yeah, I had to sort of try and prove myself as a worthy addition to the setup.
Well, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it led to some, you've been a important member for Team Canada recently, but you've also got a really cool pro resume and international resume for sure. But it was a Parramatta, Prairie Wolfpack, London Scottish, Auckland, Newcastle Falcons, and now in Biarritz. Like you kind of bounced all over. How was playing for so many different teams and different different hemispheres and everything? How has that helped you as a player and understanding the game and understanding your role?
Yeah, well, sort of as you mentioned, I've learned everywhere I've gone. I try and soak up whatever I can. Like you mentioned, different hemispheres, different countries, they all have different styles. England's a real set piece oriented game, but it's quite a fast game. New Zealand is a much more free flowing game. It's a lot less scripted, and it's more just about, see what's in front of you, and they more coach your decision making. Whereas in England, not as much decision making, it's more scripted. In France, it's all about physicality. It's a bit of both. In Australia, it's somewhere in between as well. Canada, obviously, we had Kieran Crowley and Barnesy coaching with a bit of a New Zealand style. We've had Kingsley, Shelley, who mentioned, Graham Moffat, who was part of the under-20 setup, and they've all sort of had their own, everyone has their own background, wherever they come from has their own emphasis. And so trying to just learn from all those different people, all those different places, and soak it all up, it's definitely helped me. It's not necessarily the way I would have chosen it to go if I had the choice. If I had the choice, I would have gone, Australian under-20s, Waratahs, Wallabies, Bledisloe Cups, World Cups, tons of cash, all that kind of stuff. But that's not the way that the dice fell. So, but I have been very fortunate, and I'm, in a long and roundabout way, I think it's worked out for the best because, I think I've become a well-rounded player and a well-rounded person from sort of just having, everywhere you go, you're the new guy. So you got to come in, take your humble pie, learn from everyone. You're at the bottom of the food chain straight away. It doesn't matter. Like you go to a new club, you're automatically at the bottom of the food chain, unless maybe you're someone like DTH, or if Cudmore rocked up, maybe not, but like everyone else. But even I believe those guys, they would take their humble pie anyway, because that's just the kind of guys they are. But yeah, it's been good. It's been really good. And like you say, I've lived most all over the world and seen places, and it's easy because you do end up with 30 best mates as soon as you rock up anywhere, which obviously it makes it a little easier to settle into a place when you've got friends.
That's one of those drawing cards, I think, of rugby, is that you can go anywhere and just look up in the local phone book, rugby clubs, and then like you said, you've got 30 really close friends right there that are willing to do things for you. Waratahs, what is that? Where you were? Is it where the Tars play?
Yeah, that's where I'm from. Well, where I grew up was Sydney, and so that was like we were Waratahs seasons ticket members, back in my childhood, and I was close. Like after I came back from the Canada under-20s, I got called into their training squad, and so I trained with them the whole summer. Made some good friends who I run into now in France. Like I played a preseason game against my old mate Kane Douglas, and haven't seen him for a few years, but it's just like I think the last time we hung out was in a pub in Sydney, and it's just you just carry straight on with it.
That's awesome.
But no, so that's sort of I was on the cusp of that, and then I broke my ankle, fell off the radar. The coaches changed as they do, and the new coaches came in, didn't know me from Biosoap, didn't care, and so that was the end of that sort of opportunity.
Oh, something might open up again though, right? Like
it would be great. It would be great, but I'm not fussed, to be honest. Like Super Rugby is always something I wanted to do, but France is pretty awesome, and the way that they sort of look after you here, it's something Mike Shelley had been telling me for a long time before. When I was doing England and then New Zealand, he'd been saying, just go to France. Once you get into a club there, they're really loyal to the players. Like if you do well by them, they'll do well by you. Whereas, in England, it's strictly business.
Yeah.
It's, X's and O's, it's pounds. And, if they think that they can get someone better, or if it doesn't really matter, like I feel like it doesn't really matter there what you've done for the club, or if the fans love you, or if you've given everything, or, if they think that they can get, better value or if they just think, if they just feel like changing up, they'll play games with contracts. Whereas here, they're pretty honest, pretty early. Like when I arrived, they re-signed me, I think, before the end of November, which is really early in the contract season here. Like most contracts, your sort of top line players will get signed before Christmas. So for them to be like, as soon as I arrived, being like, okay, yeah, we want to keep you. It was a really refreshing change for me, and so I could definitely see myself finishing up in France.
That's awesome. It's not, it's never nice to talk trash about people and stuff, especially online, but I've never been a fan of England rugby. Pro game, international game. I think the only English player I've ever liked is Johnny Wilkinson. And one of the guys I teach with is Australian, and he hates Johnny because of 03, right? So
of course, yeah. I remember watching that game, as a kid, and it was tough to swallow, But that is good. To be fair, I like the English game. Like I like the way they play it. The Premiership, I find it really entertaining to watch. I think that they have a really good balance between speed and physicality, the forwards game. And the one thing about the English fans is, depending on where you go, the fans are really knowledgeable. They're good fans. I remember when we beat Gloucester in Gloucester, which was something Newcastle hadn't done for a number of years. Dean Richards, who's our director of rugby, said, back in my day when we won, we'd go to their pub and drink their beer. And so we're doing that. So he delayed the bus. We all went across the road to the
Nice.
pub, drank some beer at the pub, and the fans who come up to you, they wouldn't just be, you get the generic sort of rugby chat, good game. But these guys would be like, I really like the way you shifted that drive around the front. You sucked it. You could see that the front prop was biting in, and you exposed him. It was real knowledgeable chat. It wasn't just your standard stuff. And so, yeah. That these guys actually really appreciate the dark arts, and that's why when there's a scrum battle and it's scrum after scrum, they'll be cheering in England, whereas in Australia and New Zealand, they'll just be like yelling at the ref to get on with the game, sort of thing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good point. So, talking about that, like England, let's stay on that. You 2015 Rugby World Cup there, and yep. You were part of that squad. What were your expectations going into that? Like, individually as a team, you're at the birthplace of rugby. They know their game. You just said that. What were you thinking when you were going into England?
Yeah, so I mean, from a team perspective, we definitely wanted to. You want to do as well as you can. We wanted to make the quarterfinals, obviously, and so we had Ireland, France, Italy, and Romania. So obviously that was going to be tough to do. And I think the realistic goal, even if no one was really saying it, was to make automatic qualification by basically beating Romania and Italy. And that's something we thought we definitely could do. I think we had a really good team that year. We had some really good games. I think obviously that Italy game was heartbreaking. I still don't understand how Castro Giovanni can be perpendicular to the rest of the scrum, and he gets a penalty in his favor. That I still remember that call. I was in the scrum looking, going like, what? That is a classic, big rugby country, small rugby country. They give them the benefit of the doubt sort of call. But yeah, it was a fantastic experience in general. Like the atmosphere, I've heard people describe it before. It is crazy. Like walking, and the bus can't drive through the street because there's too many people, stuff like that. It's just, it was amazing. From an individual perspective, it was both really exciting and really disappointing. I sort of got in there. I knew I was sort of coming into the frame late, and the way that things had sort of shaped up in those preseason, in the sort of the Pacific Nations Cups, I thought, in my unbiased and humble opinion, that I'd been one of the best second row who'd been turning up. And Jeb was probably better than me at the time, but he was playing flanker. I thought I was the best one there, and I was just not getting picked. So I was just like, I was kind of pulling my hair out, and though definitely I wasn't as fit as the other guys, because I'd come basically from an amateur background, which is something that will come up again later, the sort of difference between amateurs and pros. But I was a good player, but I had terrible strength and conditioning. So Andy Evans whipped me into shape really quickly, and it worked. Obviously, I had to put in the hard yards. Like, no one was going to make me do it. I had to want to do it myself. But then I got into a position where we played that game against Samoa at BMO, and we lost on the bounce of the ball at the very last play of the game. And I had a good game, and that game got me my contract at Auckland, because their coach was the Auckland coach, and he's like, I saw you in that game and I knew I had to have you. Like, when I was waiting for you to come available off contract, and then I was going to sign you. So, I thought I was in a good position to be playing, and I had experienced people from rugby, both in Canada, in Rugby Canada circles and around the world, being like, no, watching games, you're doing the right thing. And I never got a start, which I was really disappointed. I was on the bench. I got 30 minutes, and then I didn't get picked for that. I played quite well against France. I had 10 minutes against Italy. What can you do in 10 minutes? You run around, try and hit everything as much as you can, but at the end of the day, you're probably not going to have that much of an impact on the game. I had a good game against France, which was the game that got me my Newcastle contract. And then I got left out against Romania. So, from a personal perspective, it was awesome. I was so excited and happy to be there, but I was, I don't know. It's a thing about, I think, a lot of competitive people. You talk to them and they always want more. It's never enough. You're really happy that you hit your goal, but then you think, what's the next thing? Like, you're not just happy to be there. Now you want to play.
Make a difference.
You don't want to get off the bench, and then you want to start. And then you don't just want to start. You want to be the best player on the field. Like, that's kind of that's sort of the way I always think. And it is a bit annoying because you accept the happiness of the moment for a second, but then you're like, right, okay, now you just see the next challenge. And then if you don't get it, then it's disappointing.
That's fair. And you had some big names there in second row with you. There was, like you said, Jeb, who was flanking too, but Jamie was still there too, right? Cudmore was still there.
Yeah.
Who else would have been some second rows?
Bookaboom. Brett Bookaboom.
Yeah.
So
lots of experience and everything, right? That you're trying to push your way into, but that worked in 2019 because you were there again. And different scenario. I think you guys had probably a younger roster. But you played some exciting games, like the New Zealand game. That's hard. The South Africa game, watching that second half and how it just kind of turned around was amazing. What were your thoughts on, I guess, 2019? What makes it different?
Do you mean like what makes a difference for the team, or so? How do you mean?
You had different coaching, you had different players. Expectations probably were a little bit different. You're in a pretty hard pool. You know, you didn't get to play your final game because of the tsunami that hit. What do you like? You know, 2023 is 2 years away now. Were you guys able to do something in 2019 that can help you build towards 2023?
To be honest, I don't think anything we did in the 2019 World Cup will really help us build towards 2023, other than maybe identifying some good young players. You know, like Andrew Coe, we'd sort of known about him, but that try that he scored against Italy was, you know, it was out of this world. That's some good stuff. From a performance perspective, we had a lot of injuries in that first Italy game. And I think what it really showed was that we don't have the depth that we need, because when, you know, a few of the first string guys were out, it just didn't work. It didn't work as well. And Italy, who we've always been really competitive against in recent times, pulled our pants down. And it's just, you know, it's disappointing it was really disappointing to watch it, and it's disappointing to be part of it. And we obviously need to be better, and we need to, all of us, be better. The players, the coaches, everything, we need to be better, because we're not going to walk into the next World Cup easily. We're going to have to play proper rugby and qualify. And so we need to obviously lift our level. But then, as you've mentioned, the flip side of that South Africa game, we played some unbelievable rugby. We scored more tries against South Africa than England did in the final.
Yeah.
But we obviously they were unbelievable, and I think it really showed us what the next level is like. You know, we played against Ireland in the past and run them really close and had a really good game, but other than that, we don't really get all that many top tier games. We played Scotland a few years ago, but the whole team had gastro, so it was a bit of an asterisk from my perspective. I was thinking of the team, when half the team can barely stand up, I'm not really going to judge the performance of that game. But then obviously we'd lost a few games to the Yanks. We'd lost to Uruguay, lost to Brazil in a ARC. So there was a bit of a trend going on. And so to have a really strong performance, that's probably the sort of the shining light to come out of that World Cup, was that we played against a team that won. They threw the kitchen sink at us. They were doing ridiculous plays, cross kicks, like amazing stuff. Like, it was good. They didn't take it easy on us, and they named a pretty strong team. Obviously, there's no weak team from the Springboks, but the fact that they bring guys like Etzebeth and Malcolm Marks off the bench, you know, that's pretty. It's respectful from them to play their top team, but also, you know, it was good. And then, like you say, it was disappointing to not play that final game. Everyone who's been on the pod with you has mentioned it. It's true. You know, it was horrible. It was heartbreaking. And, you know, because that's what we were there for, was to play, to win. You know, it was the same sort of mentality, I guess. If we could beat Italy and beat Namibia, we'd automatically qualify. Obviously, the Italy thing didn't happen. So then the next goal is like, right, we have to beat these guys now. You know, we must win, you know, finish on a high. And I suppose in a way we sort of did finish on a high, but it wasn't the high we wanted. We finished with a good second half performance. Our last action on the field was a good action, but, you know, that we're still lost. So it's unfortunate.
No, and you make great points. And watching that second half against South Africa, and how not only did you not roll over, but you actually took it to the South Africans. It was it was a night and day different game. I mean, it was like a
Yeah.
14-7 second half or something after it was like 50-0 at the like.
Mm.
I've chatted with some friends and they said they shut it off at half. I'm like, no, go back and watch that second half. It's the best
Yeah.
40 minutes of rugby I've seen Canada play in a long time.
Yeah.
But getting to that, like you talk about depth, and that's one thing that, when you live in Canada, you can see the lack of depth we have. We have, maybe you have a great starting 15, but when those tactical subs come on, that sometimes can hurt us a little bit because we've got, young guys, we've got guys that are playing out of position, skilled in their own right, but maybe they just don't have that Sonny Bill, type of impact when they come off the bench,
Yeah.
whatever, right? But what can Canada do to help that? Like, is the MLR going to improve that? What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, it is. It's very tough. I think there's no simple answer to the question. I've thought about it. The players, we talk about it. We just a bit off the cuff, but obviously we want Rugby Canada to be in the best place possible. While we're playing, we want to leave it in a better place than what we found it, and so on and so on. So I think, the MLR is definitely helpful. I think that the more players that you can have doing it as a full-time job, that's what we need for sure. Because, even though the MLR, like I watched a few of the games and the quality, it's getting better for sure, but it's not up to the standards of any of the European comps. But what it does is it has guys with the ball in their hand. They're training full-time, proper strength and conditioning, like I mentioned before, what I was lacking when I first turned up on the scene. And then what it'll really do is you can see it every year. It's getting stronger. You got more and more influential foreigners are coming into the competition. They'll help lift the standards of their own team for sure. If a guy like Chris Robshaw or Ma Nonu, I played with Ma at the Blues in Auckland, and
Cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was there. I did the pre-season with them and was signed up till the first few rounds of Super Rugby, but I had to pull pin and go back to Newcastle. There's a long story behind all that, but maybe for another day.
Another pod, okay.
Yeah,
or a private conversation, maybe.
Yeah. But so I was with him and Sonny Bill, all those guys, and the level that they bring. Their professionalism, their knowledge, the way they read the game, and to help impart that on their teammates is one thing, but also you get better by playing against better opposition. If you're playing against crap teams, you don't have to play well to win. You can continue to be mediocre and win. And so I think that by upping the standards, having those good foreign players come in and really lift the standard as well, I think it's going to be massive. But it's hard because you look at who the first string of Canada has been primarily, it's European-based professionals. It's harder and harder to get into Europe. Everyone's tightening their quotas. Everyone, they want local players. The money is drying up. COVID definitely exacerbates that. And so to get to Europe, it's like, how do you get to Europe? And I was having this conversation with my Biarritz coach just the other day. He was asking about how's rugby in Canada, what's on the timetable and whatever. We got talking about this, and I'm saying, like, to get to Europe, you have to be of a level where you're going to probably be a starter in the team, if not one of the main guys in the team. Otherwise, they're not going to waste the money because they're going to have to get you a visa. They're going to have to sort you out somewhere to live. It's an expensive process for them compared to just signing a local guy, and you're occupying a quota position, which the other people who are gunning for those same spots as a foreigner are All Blacks, Wallabies, those kind of guys. So you have to really be up of a good level to get there. And so, but how do you get to that level without having been there in the system? It's hard, like, the chicken and the egg, which comes first. So it's having the MLR, paying guys a proper wage that they can live on to train and play, and they are actually training and playing full time, exposure to better players. I think that lifts the level massively. And then maybe we'll get a few more guys heading over to get some guys in the top 14 or to England or to New Zealand or wherever it may be. And then that opens up more positions in the MLR, and you can really get that thing going. But also the work that Jamie's doing with the Pride, I'd say, is massive, because that will help bridge that gap between youngsters coming out of the under 20s who, full of enthusiasm, but maybe not full of skills and the right physical traits, and help them to develop. And obviously, if there's a guy who knows what it takes to make it in the big leagues, it's him. So
Yeah.
he will impart some knowledge, I'm sure, and hopefully help those guys raise up a level.
Yeah, you got a few guys there. You got like Jamie, you got DTH and Tyler that have gone off and, signed and stuff like that. But you're right. I had the pod that I posted yesterday, Dr. Robert Strang. He's a chief medical officer for Nova Scotia, and he had one cap for Canada back in the early 80s. And we talked, and he's not a huge fan of the professional game at this point because he feels it's harmful to Canada and some of the smaller nations. But, maybe the MLR can turn that around eventually. I think when his argument is when the game turned pro, the big countries in rugby, the New Zealands, the Englands, the teams, the countries that had money that were able to invest in rugby or they had that good background in rugby, they just took off. And then all the other countries, we were just left in the dust.
I can see what you mean by that, but I disagree. Canada was undoubtedly stronger in the amateur era. It was definitely a more level playing field. There is no doubt about that. But, the thing is, we're the guys who are putting our bodies on the line. As a professional player, I'm the one with a banged up ankle today. Mm-hmm. And an amateur player, he's still getting that banged up ankle, and the money is going somewhere, but it's not going to the players. So they're still selling this TV rights. People are buying tickets to the stadium. And if it's not the players who are getting the money, who should be getting the money? They're the guys who are going to have to live with the long-term consequences mm-hmm. of our silly decisions. Sometimes, there's going to be some stiff joints in my body for sure when I'm older. And there are guys who do have issues long-term, and so they should be the ones who take the profit from the game, not the old boys sitting around in their corporate box. Have drinking scotch and
smoking their cigars.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. So someone's making the money, and it should be the players, in my opinion.
No, yeah, and I agree. Like I love the professional game and everything that it's done. I just sometimes I get worried that Canada and other countries are getting left behind. So I love watching the MLR. It's great to see some local talent out in those games, and I agree with you, give them 2 or 3 years there and maybe they can push for a chance in France or England or New Zealand or what have you. So it's just a matter of time.
Matches them in terms of quality. That would be even better if the MLR can start matching those guys in terms of quality. That would be the dream. That would be the ideal situation.
Someday we'll get there someday.
Yeah, I hope so. I'll be rooting for it.
You gonna come over to play?
Yeah, I might do. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. But yeah, it's definitely obviously I keep in touch with guys. There's a lot of Australian coaches coaching over there. So they usually ask me what I'm doing, and then once I say I'm already signed up, ask me some opinions on Canadian guys. Obviously Mark Winokur, he was the manager of a lot of Canadian tours that I was on. So I keep in touch with Winnie and Bill and those guys. So it's definitely not out of the realms of possibility. But I've also got my girlfriend here, and so a lot of what happens after rugby will
depend on upper management.
Determined by her. Well, yeah, because she's over in France at the moment, which is, although it's a lovely place, isn't where she'd want to be ideally. She wants to live in Sydney, loves Sydney, so she's come over here now, and so there'll be some discussions in the future for sure.
I won't pry there. I don't want to cause any troubles.
No. There's no trouble. It's just we'll have to see what works best for us at the time.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, Evan, we're going to jump onto our quick fire section here. You ready for this one?
All right.
So let's go through it. You said that you've got some answers ready, but you might not for some. So we'll see how this goes. All right, who's the best team you've ever faced?
The 2019 Springboks.
Best player you ever faced?
That is a tough one.
And it doesn't have to be a second row you matched up against. It could be, but
I'll say Leone Nakarawa.
Say that again.
Leone Nakarawa. He is the Fijian lock who plays for Glasgow. He played for Racing Metro for a few years, and he is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just in terms of his, I've seen 5 guys tackling him, and he still gets to offload away. He's a good set piece operator. He's an absolute freak of nature. He's won European Player of the Year a few times. he's a lunatic.
Is he
DTH is good mates with him. You ask DTH about him. He's good friends with him.
Is he the toughest player you ever faced too, or?
I wouldn't. No, I'm not sure. The toughest player. No, I wouldn't say he's the toughest. Although not to say he's not tough. Toughest player. Oh, that's another tough one. There's a few There's a few Fijian options. Obviously, they're pretty tough humans.
The Fijians are usually the ones that come up in response on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty tough. There's too many. I'd say maybe someone like the toughest player that's hard. I'll say Skulk Burger.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
When he was at Saracens, he was a pretty tough character.
Yeah. All right. What's the best match you've ever been a part of? Could be international, could be pro, could be under 20, like up to you.
Yeah, the best game, hands down, was the Auckland Mitre 10 Cup final against Canterbury. If you haven't watched it, you should go watch it. Not just because the good guys won, but because it was just an unbelievable game. We were getting absolutely smoked. Canterbury had won like 9 out of the last 10 Mitre 10 Cups or something like this.
Don't give the score away, because I imagine we might have some.
Well,
it's on YouTube.
It might be, but yeah, it goes more than 80 minutes. I'll give you that for free.
Nice. What year?
Yeah. 2018. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 2018.
All right, I'm gonna look that one up and watch that this week.
Yeah. When in the depths of pre-season, when you're in your darkest places doing fitness tests, the guys who played in that game would say, "I was feeling real, shitty about rugby and what you're doing all this fitness." But then I watched a game last night, and then I was, I was feeling the same. I watched the game too. I just felt so much better about everything. So it's a good game.
All right, well, Evan, what's your favorite rugby tradition?
I'd say rugby tour. It's my favorite tradition. Like, it's something I feel like not many other sports do the way we do it. Even on an international game, international tours are like very professional, but obviously club rugby tours are a bit more fun. But you still have a meal with the opposition and a beer after the game. You get to see all sorts of crazy places around the world. Like, I would never have gone to Tbilisi or Bucharest of my own accord, but I've seen all these interesting, wonderful places that wouldn't get to see if it wasn't for rugby tour.
That's awesome. I like that one too.
And you get to hang out with your best mates, for a few weeks or a few months. That's always good too. Yeah.
That's right. Who's the best team you've ever played with?
Ooh, that's tough. Trying to sit on any fences. Yeah, the Blues.
The Blues.
I played with them in pre-season before I went back to England, and they just, a
lot of talent.
Sonny Bill, like the guy. Well, and the Blues actually really kicked on that year and did really well. So that was, there was some really good players, some underrated players too. Just the Blues had been an underperforming franchise in New Zealand for quite a few years, and they really kicked on that year. So it was good to see.
All right, what's your rugby nickname?
Moose.
Moose?
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, I think most Canadians who go overseas end up with Moose.
Right,
I know Shane O'Leary is called Moose as well, which is
really
he's not much of a moose.
Baby moose.
Yeah.
What's who's the player that you love to smash?
Gordon McCrory.
Wow, that was quick.
Easy.
He's a teammate.
Even though we're on the same team. Yeah, well, at training, there's just lots, any pranks you can play on Gordy, just push him over when he's not looking. It's just, he's a little shit and he needs it to be put in his place.
I like it. All right. Any rugby superstitions?
No superstitions. I mean, I try to keep my lifting blocks for the lineup for as long as I possibly can, but I forget them regularly or lose them and make new ones. So I wouldn't say it's a superstition, but I do like to see how long I can keep a pair of lifting blocks.
All right. You've played with a lot of talented players. Tell me, have you watched the Jordan documentary, The Last Dance?
Yeah.
All right. So for you, tell me who would be your Jordan, your Pippen, and your Rodman. You've got a lot of names you can choose from.
Yeah. I'd say Jordan from a Canadian perspective, it'd probably be Ardron.
Mm-hmm.
But just in general, I'd say Sonny Bill. He's he's just the ultimate professional, and he demands high standards of everybody around him, which is kind of, what Jordan's doing. In terms of Scottie Pippen, I say Patrick Tuipulotu, because he was just sort of coming back from a long series of injuries, and he wasn't really getting any of the fanfare. He was probably 4th choice on the All Blacks pecking order, and he was absolutely killing it. Just under the radar, but just doing really, really good stuff. In terms of Rodman, everyone goes Blevins. That's pretty good. That he is a bit of a Rodman. Jeb Sinclair, Rodman.
Jeb's got a few nods for Rodman as well.
Yeah,
like
Blevs and Jeb joint.
Yeah. That's a good duo for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Name 3 people you'd take on a weekend golfing trip. Doesn't have to be rugby players, but it can be.
Yeah, I forgot about this one.
Do you golf?
I do, not very well.
Nobody golfs well.
No, well, some of the guys in my team here are unbelievable.
Yeah.
There's a Scottish guy, Andy, and he is very good. But okay, who will I take? I'll take Steve Nash.
Oh,
Always
nice.
loved Steve Nash. I was a big basketball fan and played a bit of basketball growing up, and so I'd take Steve Nash. John Eales was the other guy I really looked up to as a player growing up as a second row in Australia. John Eales. It's very sports orientated at the moment, isn't it?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of good guys to go with.
Yeah. Who else?
Did you say Thor?
There's so many. No. I said we'll go 4. I was just trying to think. There's so many interesting people to choose from. Go for my best mate Angus from Australia, because he loves rugby and basketball also, so he would also get a kick out of hanging out with Steve Nash and John Eales.
He'll fit right in there for sure. All right, Evan, what is the most used app on your phone?
WhatsApp, for sure.
Yeah, WhatsApp?
Yeah.
That seems to be a popular one among the players.
It is. In terms of anything after WhatsApp, because everyone says WhatsApp, that's a bit boring. I'm playing a stupid game on my phone called Homescapes at the moment, so that's up there. Yeah,
I've seen that advertisement.
It's really stupid, but it's kind of addictive. And if you're sitting there if you've got 5 minutes that you don't really want to do anything else, you can do a level.
I think my wife plays that one.
Yeah. I was actually surprised because I just sort of found it, like you say, from an ad, and I took the bait, clicked on it, and then turns out like 3/4 of the French guys in the club play it. They saw me playing it one time. Oh yeah, what level are you up to? Oh, okay. I thought it was just me.
It's like old Farmville on Facebook there about 10 years back.
Yeah. I think it's the same kind of level of stupidity and addictiveness.
All right. What's your go-to food?
Or if I'm cooking, steak.
Yeah. What's your favorite between chips or cookies?
Chips, for sure.
What kind?
Good question. There's these Tyrells. They're kind of like kettle chips, and it's sea salt and balsamic vinegar. Unbelievable. Really good stuff. Unhealthy. Don't eat them, but tasty.
Oh man, chips and me go hand in hand. French fries or onion rings?
Oh, French fries.
French fries or poutine?
French fries.
Do they have poutine in France?
They do, actually. There is a poutineery just sort of on the outside of the city centre. I haven't been yet because by the time I actually found out that it was there, then COVID and everything's closed. So I haven't, and it's a bit outside of the Uber Eats zone for where I live, so I haven't tried it. But once COVID's finished, I'll give it a run.
That sounds fair. What's your favorite beer?
Ooh, Guinness.
Nice. Me too. What's a guilty pleasure?
Ice cream.
Any particular?
And Guinness.
All together?
At the same time.
With a scotch and a cigar.
Yeah.
Where's the best place for a post-match beer?
I think Klahani Park or the Calgary Rugby Union. How they have all the teams play at the one place, and so all the teams come back after the game, except for the Calgary Irish. I think they have their own place, but it's a pretty good spot. The Kazkoffs run a good ship over there. What's
your favorite song or your favorite band type of music? Like if I come over there, no COVID, what are you spinning on the record player?
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible with if I'm DJing the party, see what the people like. But I do love country, a bit of Feathered Indians, like that song. It's a good one.
Okay. What series are you binge watching right now?
We just finished Jack Ryan. My girlfriend and I, we've just been watching that, and at the moment we're doing a bit of a rewatch of The Office. We finished Jack Ryan and just Office 20-minute episodes or whatever. Pretty easy.
Yeah, Jack Ryan's good. Have you tried Yellowstone?
Haven't. Is that on Netflix?
No, it's on Amazon.
All right, got that. So.
Kevin Costner's a big rancher, and it's in Montana. It's pretty. We just finished season 3 there last night. It's pretty. It's like Sons of Anarchy, but ranching.
Sounds good. Have to try that for sure.
What's your favorite movie?
Gladiator.
Nice. Who'd play you in the Netflix movie of your life?
Chris Hemsworth, obviously. Has to be.
Has to be. Who'd play the leading lady?
Jennifer Lawrence.
Geez, that was quick.
I knew I was waiting for that one for sure. I knew that was one of the answers I definitely knew already.
What would the movie be called?
That's a good question. Say For the Love of the Game.
For the Love of the Game. All right, that's a good title for one. All right, thanks for those. Those were pretty good. We only got a few questions left here, Evan. This is neat. I was researching for you. So your great uncle Bert Olmstead, and he's a member of the Hockey Hall of Fame, which is pretty cool. Member of a few original 6 teams. But your dad, this is kind of neat, John Olmstead, has a trophy named after him for a match between, was it UBC and Capilano RFC?
Yep, that's right.
You've got some pretty impressive sporting bloodlines. Like, even though you grew up in Australia, you've got this hockey heritage, you've got a rugby heritage. Has that helped you in your drive as a player and your skill set to become a national player and playing professionally?
Yeah, I'd say it definitely has. Obviously, Dad was a good rugby player, in Vancouver, and Uncle Bert, in hockey, which obviously before my time. But yeah, definitely. What I think the main advantage, obviously, a little bit of genetics of being tall and in reasonably good shape. Obviously, that helps. But I think the main thing was just that sports was in my family and it was always encouraged. And if I wanted to try to play a different sport or if I wanted to do something, I had the support of my family 100%, which is not always the case for everyone. And then it's not only just that they let you do it, but they also encourage you. And Dad coached a rugby team for a couple of years, that more than willing to drive you all over Sydney or wherever it was to get you to games and training. And so I think that's probably, that helps massively. And then obviously you don't want to, you just know you can do it. That people have done it, people who have done it. So then, you can do it as well. So yeah, that's, I'd say that's probably the main contributions to me personally. But it was always funny, when Dad's Canadian friends would come around the house and they get a bit drunk and they'd start telling stories about how good Uncle Bert was. You can't believe. And obviously, I didn't really know hockey too well because it's not on TV or anything in Oz. So it was always cool just to hear these stories about your relatives. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
So why did your family move back to Australia or move to Australia, I guess?
Yeah, so Dad he was a salesman. He'd been working with Xerox for a long time, and a friend of his had married an Australian woman and was working for a new company in Sydney, and so said, hey, come help us get going, help us get off the ground. So he came. It was initially just supposed to be for 2 years to help them get set up, and then we were going to, I guess, go back. But as happens quite frequently when people move to Australia, is they get stuck because it's pretty awesome. It's a good place. Yeah, I mean, it's different. I love Canada and I'd happily live there. But when you're used to sort of Vancouver weather, it's raining all the time and it's never really that nice. It is nice in summer, but in Sydney, a Vancouver summer's day is a Sydney's winter's day. So it's easy to understand. No. It's hard, and obviously things are going well. So I guess the job was good. We started going to school, and then it's like, oh well, do we take him out of school and drag him back across the world? So just, one thing led to another and you end up staying.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. Evan, who was your childhood hero?
Yeah, John Eales.
John Eales.
John Eales. Yeah, he was the number one guy. Obviously, yeah, like Steve Nash as well, as I mentioned, and definitely looked up to Jamie as well. Jamie Cudmore, because he was doing all the things I wanted to be doing.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
you obviously met Jamie. Did you ever get a chance to meet the other two?
I might. They used to run all these like kids rugby camps where a lot of the like big dog rugby players would come and pass the ball with the kids. So I might have met John Eales maybe at one of them, but I can't exactly remember. I definitely met like a lot of those guys, like Owen Finnegan. I remember clearly. David Giffen. I can't remember if I met John Eales or not. I met Gregan.
He was one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's a legend. But no, I never met Steve Nash.
Maybe in the future it might happen.
I have to get him to a game.
There you go.
Get him on it.
That's right. Who had the biggest impact on you as a player?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'd say like my dad obviously, taught me the basics. In terms of just the absolute biggest impact, I had this coach who was my coach at my club team from the age of 11 until about 15, and he was a massive influence. He was like a professional coach in Sydney, but then his son started playing for the team and didn't want to have a conflict of interest, so he basically stepped back and took control of this, and he took over this junior team. So I guess he had a bit of a passion for trying to, develop players, and that's pretty much the age where it starts in Australia, is like under 11s. I think it may have changed now, but it was lifting and lineouts, 15 on 15, full tackle, full scrums, full everything. So yeah, he taught a lot of the basics, which obviously is massive because that just gives you the head up, and then you can get selected for a rep team. And if you didn't have a good coach in your club, you're probably not going to get selected for the rep team. And then the rep coaches were unbelievable too. They stuck with that same age group for a number of years. So those guys made a big impact as well. But I say, if it goes right back to it, probably that guy, Jeff Pierce. He died a few years ago too, but he had a number of, like Nick Sturzacker is one of the same age group. He almost made the Wallabies, was the club captain of the Melbourne Rebels for a number of years, and played for Bristol, and now plays for Montauban actually, who we were going to play, but he didn't play. Okay. And there's a few other guys who came through that age group from the same, like one club in Sydney, that have gone on to bigger and better things. And you'd have to say that the first coach was a big impact on that.
That's pretty impressive. That's a pretty impressive legacy, all those players. Would the score of that game last night been different if he had been playing?
I don't think so. Like, he definitely would have made a difference for them, but it was, I'd say it was pretty comprehensive. Like, the forwards, he's playing 9, and he is very good playing behind a forward pack going backwards, but there's only so much you can do. And I think, it was that game was our game pretty much from start to finish.
You guys are in third place?
Yep.
I think, and I'm looking at there, it looks like they're in 10th.
Yeah. They've had a mixed season.
Yeah, you guys are doing well. 10-2, 10 wins, two draws, 4 losses.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's hard. We lost to the team who's coming last place at our home ground a few weeks ago. That was a bit of a disaster for us, but then we beat this team who's coming second at their home ground, and they're a good team. So it's been a funny old season with like COVID, because we've had obviously some different teams have had outbreaks, so games getting cancelled or postponed, and then there's makeup games. So usually where you have a week off, then you have a makeup game, so then you're going for like 10 games straight, with no breaks, and then it just leads to it makes for some interesting results that pop up every now and again. Like the first game back from COVID, I think most teams have lost. Doesn't matter who it's against. So whereas traditionally in France, you win all your home games and then you try and pick up a couple of away wins. And so we've bombed a few home games, but we're picking up lots of away wins, which is unusual.
It's got to be hard on the body too, like that. Not many off days and things like that. So.
it is. But our club's been quite smart about it, though. They're rotating guys through, which so like I missed that game against Valence where we lost at home just the other week. So that was it's a good one to miss, to be fair. Like, it was a brutal game and just super physical. But yeah, because of the nature of the game and how it's going to just go back to back to back, they have to, they can't just play the same 15 every week because guys will be broken.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. This one I like. It's especially here now you talk about, you've got 30 family members on a team, how much you love the tours and how that can bring a team together. How important is it to you, or how important is it to the rugby culture, team bonding, camaraderie, when it's at the national level, the professional level? Like, how significant is that for a team to be successful?
Yeah, it's massively important. It's one of the most important things. Obviously, the strength and conditioning coaches and the game plan and, these attacking structures, defense structures are all very important. But I think that just due to the combative nature of rugby and how it is, it is a fight most of the time. It is important that you have trust and you have good bonding with the guys who are next to you. And I think, you can see this in the successful teams are the teams that have this in droves. So if I think about my own experiences, like the Wolfpack has an unbelievable culture. It's nothing like I've ever seen before, with the Wolf Teas and the Apple Jewels and all sorts of carry on. And we performed. We had, obviously it was driven from the top. The coaches and the managers, they set it. Then the senior players set the example for the new guys and young guys. That's important. And, think of, the Auckland Mitre 10 Cup team. We had a really big mix of society in that team. There was the posh boys. There were some people from more disadvantaged backgrounds. We had, white guys, black guys, Islander guys, like everything. It was a big mixture, and the team came together really well. We would socialize at least twice a week as a team. We'd have Saturday after the game, everyone go for a beer, coaches, management, the office staff, it was really an organizational thing. But then even after Tuesday training session before a Wednesday off, everyone would go and have a beer again. And, you sit next to someone else, you talk to them, you get to know them, and the team gets together. They've got someone brings a speaker and you have some music, just take up a little corner. There was a regular bar that let us in, and with our own music, and you'd sit there and like you say, bond. And I think that leads to massive gains. And to be fair to Canada, I think that's probably something that that's a strength for Canada, is the cohesion. It's an unbelievable group of guys, and it's awesome. Like, it's something that you look forward to, is to go back and play with the Canada guys and see your mates, because everyone is scattered all over the world these days, and it's awesome to get back. So I think that cohesion is very important.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's something that's underrated in rugby, but I also think it's something that is one of the most important things on a team such as a rugby in a rugby game.
Yeah, I remember so that Auckland season, I mentioned it before, how great that game was. And, like I said, more than 80 minutes. So you won't try not to give away too many spoilers. But I was probably at the fattest I've ever been from a skin. They get the pinchy thing to test the fat around your belly and, all of your body, I guess. But, and the S&C coach, he was just like, what have you been doing? I was like, I've been having beer with my mates twice a week.
Team bonding.
Playing some good footy as well. Like, I was fit. I was playing well. But like, from a strictly professional perspective, it's probably not the best thing. But then I think that is something that makes rugby special to me, is it's not just X's and O's. There's sort of intangibles to the game, which you can't quantify by how much you can lift or what your skin folds add up to.
That's a real nice sentiment there. I like that. I think it's very underrated, and but it's probably one of the most important things to have a successful year, or extended amount of time with a team, is how well they actually treat each other and how well they do things together on and off the pitch. It's very, very important.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on what makes a great team player?
I think it's kind of, it changes depending on the team, I suppose, and it's probably whatever that team needs. In general, obviously, someone who's a good communicator, works hard, and is trustworthy. I'd say those are the main things. But excuse me, depending on the situation, you might need someone to be a dick and to really like stir the pot and get things going, like, up to physicality, whereas just being a nice guy, it's not always going to be the answer. So I'd say it depends on the team, but generally, if you're clear in your communication, you're trustworthy and you're reliable, then those are probably the main things that sort of need to be regardless.
So not necessarily just how they perform on the pitch. You're actually just talking about people's character.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And obviously performing on the pitch is important. If you're not performing on the pitch, you're not going to be on the team. So
True.
that is important for sure. But yeah, it's absolutely, if you have a team full of guys with good character and integrity and all that kind of stuff, I think you'll go far, because it's hard work, and you're putting your body on the line, and there's mauls are physical, the rucks are physical, tackles these days can have big impacts. So you need to be able to trust that everyone's going to do their job, and that if you put yourself in the right position, someone's going to put themselves in the right position also, and it's going to work well together, because that's the way to get some good results.
Absolutely. I like that. I like that a lot. All right, it's 2021. World Cup is in 2 years. So
Yeah.
let's say you're playing for sure. Let's fast forward to say 2033, 10 years after that World Cup. You're sitting around with some of those old teammates. You've got your cigars, you've got your scotch, you've got your chips and your ice cream. What do you want those guys to be saying about Evan Olmstead, the guy, the player, the man? What kind of legacy can you leave behind?
Yeah, it's a tough question.
I really like this question. It makes you really have to think hard, right?
You do, yeah. So like obviously want to be known as a good teammate, and mainly I'd say, but overall just as a good person, because there's being a good teammate, but there's also like being a good person in general. And I think that's probably the thing I would want to be known for. You could be the best player and maybe the most valuable player on your team from a playing perspective, but if you're a shit bloke, then no one will be talking about you, or they'll just be talking about how much of a shit bloke you are. So I'd say just to be known as a good person, I think I try and be nice to everyone. It doesn't mean that I'm going to be soft on anyone, for sure. Like, guys need to be told how it is sometimes. But I'd say, yeah, to be known as a good person, guy you want to have a beer with.
Yep, that sounds reasonable. I like that. That's a really good answer. Last thing, Evan, any great rugby stories you can share? Feel free to throw an old mate under the bus if you want. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah, well, it will have to stay with no names, because this is a good one. I think we're with the Canadian team, and I'd just been selected for the World Cup. Like we had our last game. Been selected for the World Cup. I'm trying to remember the exact timeline of it. Doesn't matter. They just announced the team to the players anyway, and there was a huge event teed up in Vancouver, and we were staying at our team hotel out near Metro Town somewhere. It's a bit of a hike from downtown. So we have a great night. We'd been working really hard, so the hair was let down for sure, and there was a couple of more senior players who I didn't really know very well, being the young boy on the team, were absolutely wasted, like completely buckled. And so I was getting that way myself. So I thought, time, don't want to be getting in trouble on my first tour. So I was like, right, I'm gonna go home. And I was like, right, you are coming with me, because you're fucked. And they're like, yeah, okay, that's probably a good idea. So we get in a cab and we're driving along, and one of these guys says, "Stop the cab." Opens the door, has a little bit of a vomit out the door, and then the other guy is holding his hands like this, and I'm like, it'd taken us a while to get a cab. I'd say I was fairly much sober by this point, and then all of a sudden, like, some vomit comes out the side of his hand. I'm like, oh no! So I throw him out, and we're only not even halfway home yet, and like one drop ended up on the seat of the taxi. like one drop, like it was tiny, but this guy was raging. He wanted to kill us. Like he got out the cab and so we paid, and we chucked in like an extra $150, you know, to apologize. But that wasn't, no, he wanted like $350 cleaning fee. I'm like, $350, like you buy a new taxi for $350, like get out of here. So gave him his 150, and then he's called the cops. So we lost one guy straight away. One of the people in question disappeared. He turned up the next day. And then me and the other guy did some really good bonding because we were hiding from this guy, hiding from the police, and eventually we made our way back. We made our way back with no incident. And you know, it was we bonded, and we're really good friends still. We talk fairly regularly. Me and this person in question, but yeah, it was just that was my first proper tour with the national team, and got to make some new friends over
That's awesome.
Some drunken shenanigans.
Have either of these guys been on my pod?
I won't say anything because it'll give it away either way.
Look it back. That's fair. That's fair. That's a good story. I like that. That's really good.
But it was obviously silly, but I didn't feel bad really because this guy was being really unreasonable. Like you could have wiped that up with a Kleenex. Like it was not a big deal, and he was obviously, I think he just saw a payday, wanted to take advantage of some drunk people, and
well, you know, I mean,
we weren't having that.
Think of your situation, buddy. Like you get 3 probably giants in your cab, and you're like mouthing off at them.
No comment. No comment.
All right. Well, listen, thanks very much, Evan. Really appreciate it. We hope your ankle healed up and there's nothing seriously wrong there, and that you're back on the pitch pretty soon here. Really appreciate you taking the time, and enjoy the rest of your weekend, what's left of it, bud.
All right. Thank you.
Cheers.
Pleasure to be here. Cheers.
Thanks very much, Evan. That was a lot of fun. Had a great conversation. Got a lot of good laughs, and got some good rugby stories from you. I really appreciate you taking the time. Really wishing you the best over there in Beatrice, staying safe in France, making sure you're staying clear of the COVID, and keep playing hard-nosed rugby the way that you do. Coming up soon, though, our next pod will feature Kingsley Jones and Rob Halley, Team Canada men's coaches, followed by Marissa Pache. She is the Chief Marketing Officer for World Rugby, followed by, as far as I know, the only married couple to date that has captained Canada's men's and women's team, so Stephanie and Hans de Goody. Nick Blevins has agreed. We're just still trying to figure out a time where we can chat. And then, of course, there's a host of others that will be coming up as well. And lastly, again, I want to thank everybody for listening. But more importantly, I want to thank you for when you spread these good rugby words out. So whether you're sharing them or however you're doing that, but make sure that other people get a chance to listen. It's great for our Canadian rugby, and we need to keep that up. As always, got to thank my son Rylan, a 12-year-old, for supplying us with our music. He created the intro and outro tunes on his laptop, so it's pretty cool. Nice little plug for Rylan. He enjoyed doing that. And as always, feel free to request topics, whether it's future guests or questions you like asked. Always love hearing from you. So this is Jamie, and until next time, I want you to stay safe, stay healthy, stay sane, and most importantly, keep on rocking.